right, last week we just had Josh Emmett versus Kevin Vallejos, as it would be pronounced. It's not Vallejos, as I thought. The J is actually pronounceable. It's the L's that are pronounced as J's, and the L is silent. Who would have thought? I didn't think so. But it went exactly as I thought it was going to go. Vallejos smoked Josh Emmett. It wasn't even close. And it happened in round one, as I said it was going to. And here we are today. Now, remember, before we get started into anything, we got to look at the fight prediction sheet, which I got here, and it's available every single week for every single fight night or main numbered event. I create these sheets, and if you look here at the screen, we got the early prelims, the prelims, and the main card. It's got everything you need to know, everything even a casual fan would need to know when it comes to making fight predictions. And if we take a look here, it's got the weight class, the names, the order in which the fight happens, the fight prediction, the fight record, the Vegas betting odds, the nicknames of the fighters themselves, the country of origin flags, and the ranking up in the corner here. So this weekend we got Evloev versus Lerone Murphy. Both these motherfuckers should have just got the title shot to begin with, but it turns out now they got to fight each other. That's just the way things go nowadays in the UFC, it would seem. But there is way too much to talk about this card because, honestly, this shit is probably going to be one of the better cards of the year. And you may not even think so by just taking a glance at it right off the bat. But I'm telling you, this shit's going to be fucking unbelievable. I think it's going to be the best card that we've had this year, and I'm not even fucking exaggerating. Not even a little bit. Okay? Now, to be fair, this year is just getting started, and we've still got UFC 327, which is hopefully going to be a very good main numbered event, or should I say numbered event. That's right around the corner, April 11th. But this past weekend that we just had with Josh Emmett, Kevin Vallejos, pretty damn good as well. But I think this card is going to be much better. Two undefeated fighters, two guys who realistically both deserve a title shot already, but instead they're fighting each other to determine who actually gets next in line. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I initially wasn't okay with that, and most people weren't okay with that, especially after the fact that Diego motherfucking Lopes got his second shot at the title. Because when you look at it, Movsar Evloev, 19-0, Lerone Murphy, 17-0-1. No losses between them. Someone's O has to go. Those are the kinds of matchups that are genuinely exciting. High stakes, real implications. This isn't filler. This is a title eliminator, whether they call it that or not. Now, originally, I wasn't a huge fan of how this division was being handled. Like I said earlier, Diego Lopes getting opportunity after opportunity for whatever, who knows what the fuck reason it is. Okay? If anybody's getting the Dana White privilege, it 100% is Diego Lopes. He fought on UFC 300. He fought on UFC 303. He fought at the Sphere. He's had 2 title shots against Volk. He was the UFC Noche main event against John Silva. And now he's fighting on the fucking White House. It's clear the UFC is trying to build him into something, and I don't even know why. Okay, well, I guess I can kind of understand. But out of all the people that they could have picked, why Diego Lopes? What is it about Diego? Is it because that Dana White needs a Mexican champion? Because they want to promote that shit so much? I don't know. And I get it. But at the same time, you've got guys like Evloev and Murphy who are just quietly winning and completely undefeated across the board, both on like 7 or 8 fight win streaks. Now with Evloev, I can understand why he might have been passed over at times with fights getting canceled and his inactivity. But with Murphy, he's been on a tear. He's been completely active. He's been winning 7 fights in a row, 7-fight win streak, undefeated in the UFC. And not just decision wins either. He literally had the knockout of the year. According to Dana White, he's been making a huge case. So now those two get to fight, and honestly, good. Whatever, who cares? It settles it. This is what we got, whatever. It'll be a good fight. Now, looking at the rest of the card, the card itself, is unbelievably stacked. I can point to at least 10 fights on this card that I'm genuinely excited for. And yeah, the UFC might shuffle things around last minute like they always do. You know, because it's like, why is MVP versus Patterson not the co-main? Why aren't they pushing MVP more than they should be? And we'll get into that later, but let's just look at what we've got going on so far. Right now, Luke Riley versus Aswell is in the co-main spot. And look, I get it. Okay, Riley is undefeated, 12-0, trains with Patty, big prospect. But let's be real here. He's not bigger than MVP, okay? But whatever, that's besides the point. They're in London. They're in England. These are the guys who represents. Okay, fine, whatever. Let's make MVP the feature, and that's what they got going on. Starting early in the card, you've got Shamrock. Great name, by the way. Not off to a great start, though. He debuted back in November on the Sarukian versus Hooker card alongside Luke Riley. Not against Luke Riley, but they both debuted together. Both guys train with Paddy Pimblett at Next Generation MMA in Liverpool. Now, Shem lost his debut, but this is one of those bounce-back situations I'm keeping an eye on. Meanwhile, Luke Riley is already co-maining in just his second UFC fight ever. And what's wild is he was actually supposed to fight Kevin Vallejos on Dana White Contender Series in 2024, but he had visa issues and he couldn't compete. So imagine if that shit would have happened. You know Vallejos would have won that fight. Okay, and we might have not have even seen Luke Riley in the UFC at this point. So, anyway, since he couldn't have that fight, he went back to Cage Warriors, racked up 11 straight wins, gets signed to the UFC, wins his debut, and gets a Performance of the Night bonus. And now he's the co-main event on his second fight ever in the UFC. Okay? Now, there's some other matchups that to look out for. We've got Mario Pinto, undefeated, 11-0, won his Dana White Contender Series fight, won his first two fights via round 2 knockout in the UFC. And of course, the moment everyone remembers, right after his last fight, he pretended he couldn't speak English. And everybody believed him because he put on a good show. So in terms of contenders in the heavyweight division, this could be a motherfucker that could actually bring some excitement back into it. And I'm interested to see where this guy goes this weekend. Because as I said, we need some fucking contenders in the heavyweight division. Now, 2 fights in the middle of this card stand out strictly based on odds. Or at least they did. One of them has changed. But anyway, there's a dude by the name of, now I don't know exactly how to pronounce this, Kondratavicius maybe, versus Tricoli. I'll just call him Condra. So Condra is a minus 700 favorite. Now, if I'm not mistaken, let me take a look at the card here. He is the biggest favorite. Actually, he's not the biggest favorite on the card. Excuse me. I just remembered. I just talked about Mario Pinto. Dude's a negative 900. He's a minus 900 on the card now, which he originally wasn't that big. I think it was like negative 200 to begin with, and now he's a minus 900 on the card. The biggest favorite on the card. And who I was just talking about there, let me bring my sheet back up. Condra, minus 700. 5 of his last 6 wins finished in round 1, 4 KOs, 1 submission. Meanwhile, Tricoli, the guy he's going up against, 0 wins in the UFC, coming off of 3 straight losses, more cancellations than actual fights. I feel like if anybody should have the minus 900 favorite position, it should be this Condra guy. But who knows? This is a do-or-die situation for Tricoli. He more than likely is going to be cut if he doesn't take this win. So that might be a reason to go for this guy, because if there ever was a reason to be motivated to win a fight, that's the fucking reason. But again, the guy he's going up against, he's pretty good. So I don't know if it's going to go his way, but we'll see, I guess. But it doesn't matter. That's just an exciting factor when it comes to watching this card tonight. And then right after that, which at first seemed pretty crazy, but then it completely flipped the script, and now things are different. We've got Sutherland versus another name that I don't know how to pronounce. Pericic, I don't know. Pericic. Sutherland was the biggest favorite on the card originally at negative 800. But now, he's not even the favorite anymore. It's completely flipped. He is the underdog. If we look now, where's he at here? There he is. Not only is he the underdog, he went from being on, like, late in the prelims to now the 4th fight of the night, and he's now a plus 225 underdog. And the Balkan Bear is minus 275. Which I was going to go for the Balkan Bear to begin with, but when I saw those odds at first, I was like, what the hell is going on here? So I don't know how they initially came up with those numbers, but it looks like they finally figured it out, and it's actually in the correct order now. But regardless, again, another great heavyweight matchup. Massive heavyweights, like physically massive. Sutherland, by the way, former LFL champion. He debuted against Walter Walker recently. I don't know if you remember this, but we all know how that ended, because Walter Walker has only ever finished fights in one way and one way only, aside from the fight that he had in Karate Combat last month, which was against a guy who had no legs. So he couldn't do his famous heel hook submission. But he certainly did on Sutherland, and he more than likely will do it again the next time he wins. But anyway, Brando Pericic, we'll call him Paris. Brando Paris won his debut. He got a performance of the night bonus. But here he's only 5-1. 5 wins and 1 losses overall total. So the guy doesn't have a lot of experience in the field of mixed martial arts. Whereas Sutherland is 10-4. So he's not too crazy ahead of him in terms of fight records, fight wins, fights in general. But the Balkan Bear is a strong dude. So, again, just another fight to look out for. I don't normally just list off every single fight back to back, but when we have an interesting card like this, you got to kind of look at the whole thing here, because generally speaking, when it comes to fight nights, they're not that great, especially the next, like, 6 or 7 that we have back to back. Aside from the numbered events, I'm not talking about the numbered events, I'm just talking about the fight nights. This one really stands out, and I generally don't like to say a card's going to be good or a card's going to be bad, because you never fucking know what's going to happen. And sometimes when you think a card's going to be bad, it's actually one of the best you've ever seen before. But when you got something like this where it's like, oh, this actually looks fucking fantastic, it more than likely is going to be fantastic. But now that I say that, it'll probably be fucking trash, because the things that I say usually end up not coming true. But regardless, let's move on to the next fight here. Nathaniel Wood versus Lucene Keita. Again, another great one to watch. And not just because Nathaniel Wood is on there. We got Lucene. I think that's how you say his name. Now, he was supposed to debut back in, I can't remember. It was a few months ago. And it was supposed to be against Patricio Pitbull. But Lucene missed weight by, I think, like a half a pound. Maybe it was a little bit more. It wasn't much. It was just slight. It was enough that he could still fight. But he actually went over to Patricio Pitbull backstage and had a discussion with him and tried to negotiate to still fight. He even offered to give up some of his purse, which he would have had to anyway. That's besides the point. But Pitbull was like, nope, I'm not going to fight you. You need to show some respect for me and the company and actually come prepared when it comes to the weight cuts. So he completely declined the fight. Now, you could say that's because Pitbull was scared to fight him, which may have been the case because this is a very good contender. And Pitbull did lose his debut into the UFC, so he was probably taking some precautions, especially going up against this guy who was the former Octagon lightweight and featherweight champ, currently on a 5-fight win streak. And his wins don't just come by decision either. It's all basically all knockouts, which I actually have some highlights which we will watch right now. Why not? Why not just throw them on right now? Whoops. Hold on here. There we go.
I feel like the energy changed at the end of that first round. I feel like Lopes felt something, and he really, really started to go for
this
it.
This is yes, this is Octagon.
Back, right?
Funny enough, it says Pitbull right on the canvas as well. It's kind of an allegory of his life.
Yeah, the intensity.
Oh shit, I'm not even showing it for fuck's sake. There we go.
Forward, it really changed. Nice body kick.
There it is. Actually, you know what? I can't show this. I just realized that. Little something called copyright claims. Have you ever heard of it? Can't do it. Anyway, I'll put the link in the description if you want to watch it. It is worth checking out for sure. I think there's 5 highlights back to back. I can even look up his... We'll look up his Tapology right now. If I'm not mistaken... Okay. Yeah, round 2 elbow, round 2 body shot, round 2 right hook, round 4 punches. Anyway, the list goes on and on. He joined Octagon in December of 2021. And then it only took, he had 1 fight in Octagon and then immediately fought for the interim lightweight championship. Won it. And then a couple years later, he got the featherweight championship. Okay. Oh, so it was September 6th, 2025. He was supposed to fight Patricio Pitbull at featherweight, which is 145 pounds, and so he weighed in at 149 pounds. I guess that is a bit significant. Okay. I guess I could see Pitbull's point here of not wanting to fight, but still, I mean, I don't know. At least he's in the UFC now. That's all that really matters, I guess. Okay, so then another great fight. They just keep going, dude. This is absolutely a fight night worth watching. I can guarantee it. I don't like guaranteeing, but I can guarantee this shit. Campbell versus Silva. Now, Campbell is undefeated, multiple amateur titles, 2-time FCC featherweight champ, and he got a round 1 knockout in the Dana White Contender Series, which got him his contract into the UFC. And now, just like Luke Riley, he's on the main card at the O2 Arena in England. Huge step up. But again, the UFC tends to do this. You got this really good prospect, someone who really proves themselves outside of the UFC. They have a great performance on the Dana White Contender Series, as they should, because they have no choice. They get an amazing win. They get put on the main card of either a fight night or a numbered event. And then shit starts to go downhill from there. Not always, but it does tend to happen more often than not. Even with guys who have not only proven themselves, but have gone and went and won titles in other divisions. You would think they'd be a shoo-in, but that just shows you how good the UFC is. It doesn't matter what you do outside of this organization. The second you get into the UFC, it doesn't matter who you fight, even if you fight an unranked guy, and you were a two-time title holder in Bellator or Octagon or Ryzen or whatever, you could still get creamed easily. And I mean, the biggest and best example of this is most recently Patchy Mix. And Patchy Mix even went on to fight in Ryzen, and look what happened there. He's 0-3 so far. I don't know if he'll have a comeback. He might. He's still young. He still has time. Actually, I don't even know if he is young. But anyway, another fight. Baraniewski versus Lane. Okay? Now, we saw Baraniewski, very recently. And he actually won the Unexpected War of 2025 award. Because we didn't realize what he was capable of. But he came in there with a back and forth fucking onslaught with Oban Aslan. And he almost lost that fight, but he won it in round 1. And currently he is undefeated. And, what is he here? Light heavyweight, that's what it is. 7-0, undefeated. He is the favorite, minus 550, another big favorite on this card. And the guy he's going up against, where is it? Oh, shoot, I think I got rid of it. How did I get rid of it? Yeah, I must have got rid of it. I'll just pull it up here. UFC Fight Night. Evloev versus Murphy. Where's he at here? Austin Lane. There he is. Austin Lane has lost 4 of his last 5 fights. And actually, if we go to his last 6 fights, he's lost 4 and he's had a no contest in one of them. Back in 2023, he had a no contest against Justin Tafa. Fought him again, lost by a nasty round 1 knockout. Then he went to fight Denise, got knocked out again in round 2. Then he had a win. Then he had a round 2 knockout against none other than Mario Pinto, believe it or not. And then he got knocked out again, in July of 2025 against Petrino. He's been knocked out 4 times in the past year. He's not on a great run. He's 1-4 in the UFC, and he's been in the Contender Series twice. He's won 1 and he's lost 1. So I'd imagine this fight, he's probably going to die. I don't think he's going to survive this fight. And if anything, whether he dies or lives or whatever, he's not going to win, and he's going to get cut from the UFC, which, whatever. I feel like the betting odds for this fight should be much bigger than what they are right now. But that's fine. Who was the big... Oh, yeah, Pinto. See, again, Pinto's a fucking up-and-comer. A guy that looks great. But how do we know that this is going to be like the outcome that we expect? We've seen this before. You got these rising prospects who look so good in like their first and second fight, and then their third fight, you're like, oh, there's no way they can lose, and then all of a sudden they lose. So we'll see. But that's not it. There's still after all that, then we have fucking MVP versus Patterson, which isn't even the co-main, as I said, which it should be. I feel like MVP versus Patterson should be the co-main. Riley versus Aswell should be the feature. I don't even think Riley versus Aswell deserves really to be on the main card. I mean, maybe it could be. But why not put it right after Campbell versus Silva? Wouldn't that make more sense? Because like Delidze versus Leroy Duncan, those guys have been in the game longer than fucking Riley. And Delidze's ranked number 11. Why not fucking put these guys as the co-main? I know what they're doing though. They have too much faith in Riley, and he's fucking he's Patty's fucking protege. So they're hoping for a victory. I mean, Riley is 12-0, so you got to hope for the best. And now that I'm looking at this card, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fighters are undefeated on this card. I'm just realizing that right now. Just another reason to tune in. But anyway, here's what's interesting about MVP. He was originally fighting at middleweight. Sorry. He was originally fighting at welterweight, and that's what he always wanted. He wanted to fight at welterweight. That's his weight class. That's where he's comfortable. That's where he gets wins. But after having one welterweight fight in the UFC could only get a middleweight fight. He had 2 middleweight fights, which he didn't want, which I need to look it up right now because I'm blanking on what they are. Obviously, one of them was Shara Magomedov. Ugh. There he is. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so he joins the UFC March 9th of 2024. Fights at welterweight against Kevin Holland. Takes the win. Then he fights Ian Gary. Loses via decision because I don't know how Ian does it, but he's a decision win motherfucker. Then he has a grappling match, whatever. Then he fights Shara at middleweight, and he's like, okay, that was like an offshoot fight. That wasn't supposed to happen. The UFC came to him and said, we can't find any welterweight fights. We're just gonna give you Shara Magomedov at middleweight, which by the way is a great matchup, and we were all stoked to see that. And I do recall when that fight happened, I said to myself, I don't fucking have a goddamn clue who I'm gonna go in this one because I obviously like both of them. And Shara was just coming off, I think it was that crazy double spinning back fist. Yes, it was. On UFC 308. So there was lots of hype behind Shara Magomedov. And at that point, he was now called the Pirate because his eyes all fucked up. So I'm pretty sure Shara might have been the favorite in that fight. I know there's a way to tell, but I can't remember how. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so that was supposed to be just Michael Venom Page's only middleweight fight. But then the UFC said, we can't find anybody at welterweight, so we're just going to give you another middleweight fight. And he's like, fine, okay, whatever, who gives a shit? And he took Jared Cannonier. And that was actually a great fight as well. And of course he won. But I'm looking now, it's all decision wins. It's all decision wins. Even his grappling match that he had right after Ian Gary. But outside of the UFC, he was unbelievably scary in Bellator. I don't know if you remember, but he had that one knockout where he actually broke the dude's skull and the guy couldn't fight anymore. He almost killed him because he broke his skull, smashed it into smithereens with a knee to the face. And then he comes in the UFC and he just wins by decision, but he does it excitingly, which is a huge factor, and not the only factor. about MVP. But anyway, finally now he's back at welterweight. And it's a decent opponent, but it's not somebody who's going to boost himself in the rankings. If anything, it's going to boost Patterson in the rankings if he wins, but he's not going to. But yet somehow, after those 2 middleweight fights that MVP had, he did get ranked at middleweight. And I think he was ranked 10 even. But now they brought him back to welterweight, and he just got stuck in the number 15 position. And then after the next few weeks, he's now at rank 13. So they're kind of just pushing him up. I think they're trying to just help him out here. Because I'm not mad about that. I think, MVP does deserve a whole lot more, especially the fact that he is like 38 or something. Yeah, he's 38 years old. So he doesn't have a lot of time left. So why not? He is the most exciting person, not just at welterweight, but you could say across the entire roster of the UFC. But I think I don't think it's a problem with the UFC refusing to give him fights. I think it's the fact that just nobody actually wants to fight him because his style is so unorthodox. Very, very fucking difficult to deal with. That fighters just straight up avoid him. And like I said, the only guy in the UFC to defeat him was Ian Gary, and it was by decision. And was it a split decision? Let's see here. No. Yeah, no. It was a unanimous decision. Okay, so what? I wish I could remember that fight. I thought it was closer than that, but I guess not. Whoops. And then the other crazy thing to think about is the fact that outside of the UFC, right before the UFC, it was right as he was about to leave Bellator. He had a loss to Logan Storley, and then he went into bare knuckle boxing, and he fought Mike Perry, and he lost by decision there. And then he had another fight in Bellator, and he won that one, and that's when he came into the UFC. Yada, yada, who cares? But anyway, overall, we just have to have one more look at this card here. Plenty of fights worth checking out. It's kind of unbelievable how quietly stacked this card is. All right, and if you don't know any of these people, which most people wouldn't, because a lot of them, as I'm mentioning, are either debuting or they've only had 1 or 2 fights in the UFC. So it's a nice mix-up of fresh guys, and a lot of them are fucking from England, and they're fighting in England. So when you couple those 2 aspects together, you got a lot of guys who are going to be pushing to get that win. So there's no reason why this card shouldn't be exciting. But again, it doesn't even matter about all that stuff. Because we've been down this road before, and sometimes you get some fucking stinkers. But I guess we'll see. But as it sits right now, I think this has potential to be at least the best card that we have so far. And when I look at Lerone Murphy and Movsar Evloev, something is telling me, I'm getting a little fishy feeling here, that it doesn't even matter who wins this fight. I could actually see a situation where they don't even give either of these guys a title shot. I think John Silva might be next in line to get the title shot. And I don't exactly have any evidence to prove that, other than the fact that John Silva is just like giddy and excited to make his fight news announcement. Now that might just be because they told him that you're going to fight the winner of Lerone Murphy versus Movsar, which, by the way, if that was the case, that would be fucking ridiculous and very unfair for these 2 guys. But that's all just speculation. Who knows if that's the truth? Doesn't really matter. We need to move on to Alex Pereira at this point. Because I was watching him. Whoops. Shit. I was watching him on Ariel Helwani the other day. And you know I'm a big fan of Alex Pereira, as is everybody. Like, how could you not be? But I was watching him on Ariel Helwani the other day, and I was like, God damn it. Like, the UFC should be very fortunate to have this motherfucker in there. He joins the UFC in 2021, and by his 4th fight in the UFC, he's already claiming the middleweight title over Israel Adesanya after beating him twice in Glory Kickboxing. Then he loses the belt back against Israel, giving us one of the greatest comeback moments in UFC history, moves up to light heavyweight, beats Jan Blachowicz, then claims the vacant title against Jiri in 2023. Then in 2024, goes on a massive run, beats Jamal Hill at UFC 300, beats Jiri again, then beats Khalil Roundtree, gets Fighter of the Year. 2025, loses the title to Ankh early in the year, then reclaims it at the end of the year. And now, he's moving up to heavyweight to try to claim a 3rd title. The first and only fighter in UFC history to ever claim 3 titles in 3 different divisions. And I'm just going to say it now. He is absolutely going to beat the ever-living shit out of Cyril Gane. There is no goddamn doubt in my motherfucking mind. And I know, it would be great to see Tom Aspinall get his revenge on Cyril Gane. Of course, we all want that. But if you really think about it, or at least when I think about it, I'd rather see Cyril get absolutely smashed by Alex Pereira. I don't want Cyril Gane walking out of another one of these unscathed. I want to see him finally get what's coming to him. And who better to do that than Alex Pereira? Because I've had enough of this. Cyril Gane has had 5 title opportunities, and yeah, I understand why. If I'm in the UFC, I probably do the same thing. Or if I am the UFC, I should say, I would probably do the same thing. Or I definitely would do the same thing. There's not a lot of other options. But at the same time, Alex versus Tom is the better fight. That it just is the better fight than Tom versus Cyril. Even though we'd want to see Cyril get his fucking ass smashed by Tom Aspinall so he can get his revenge. Alex versus Tom is just a better fight. And that's the one that people would actually want. Okay, and the majority of people are the people outside of the UFC who don't care about the UFC and who don't know the beef or the eye poke situation. Now, it does get a little interesting because Alex is getting older. He's 38 years old. He doesn't have a ton of time left in the sport. But somehow, he still looks incredible. Still performs like a prime champion. And recently, like I said, he was on Ariel Helwani. He announced that he signed another 8-fight deal with the UFC. Now, obviously, there's no guarantee he fights all 8. But think about it this way for a second. If he fights 3 times a year, that's about 3 more years. If he fights 2 times a year, that's 4 more years. But again, he'll be 42 at that point. That's not just a little bit old. That's pretty fucking old for MMA. Currently, the oldest active fighter in the UFC is 41 years old. But with Alex, it honestly wouldn't surprise me if he makes it that far to 42. Because if anybody's going to do it, it would be Alex Pereira. But not only is he winning, he's doing it in the most entertaining way possible. He's never won by submission, only 2 decision wins. Everything else, straight violence. Now let's talk about what this opens up. Jiri is fighting Olberg next month for the vacant light heavyweight title, as we know. And we already know Jiri wants that third fight with Alex. That's been on his mind for a while now. Oh, shit. That's why he was in the crowd, emotional, tearing up when Alex won back in October. And I'll say it right now, I think Jiri wins that title. So now picture this timeline. Alex beats Cyril, moves up to heavyweight, potentially beats Aspinall. Now you've got heavyweight champion Alex Pereira versus light heavyweight champion Jiri Prochazka. That is a massive fight in every sense. Now look, I love Aspinall. Of course. You know I do. Everyone, well, not everyone does. Actually, a lot of people hate Aspinall, and it's very unfortunate. I wanted him to stay on top for a long time. But he keeps getting shafted. And now, with the eye injuries, even though he says he's recovering and getting back into training, we don't really know how that's going to affect him. So yeah, I want to see Aspinall versus Pereira. But do I want Aspinall to win? At least at this point, I don't know. I don't know if I want him to win. And by I don't know, I want to say I don't want him to win. And that really pains me to say, because Pereira's legacy, potentially, right now, is insane. If Alex goes out there and beats Cyril Gane and then beats Aspinall, becomes a 3-division champ, then maybe he gets a shot at Jon Jones. Because, let's be real here, they're both older. That's a fight that actually makes sense to make sooner rather than later. And Jon is still signed to the UFC, and the UFC hasn't released him, even though he was on Instagram acting like he wanted to, because they can't risk losing him, especially with other promotions ready to throw insane money at him the second he's available. And you know I'm specifically talking about most valuable promotions. I kind of don't like that it's called most valuable promotions, because I was talking about Michael Venom Page, and his nickname is MVP. Well, his nickname is Venom, but it's MVP. All right, then you got most valuable promotions, which is also MVP. So if you're talking about both people, organizations in the same thing, they're going to get confused. But that's besides the point. Where was I? Alex Pereira. Oh, Jon Jones. If the UFC were to release him, and if most valuable promotions were to try to sign him, of course Jon Jones would take that opportunity, because he would get butt tons of money. So much money. So again, imagine this. Alex beats Cyril, then he beats Tom, then he fights Jon Jones, then eventually would fight Jiri after Jiri defends the light heavyweight title multiple times, then moves up to heavyweight. You can't get any more legendary than that. Now, obviously, that all depends on Alex continuing to win. And if there's one fight in that stretch that's the toughest, it's probably Jon Jones. But even then, Jon has that arthritis issue, and that could play a huge factor. Or maybe not. Maybe Jon Jones is just that good, and it doesn't matter if he has arthritis or not. You know he can't run, but he can still fight. So if Pereira does beat Gane and Aspinall, would you rather see him fight Jon Jones next, or run it back with Jiri for that super fight? I mean, I feel like at some point it would be both of them, but we don't know for sure. Now, the only other thing I need to talk about here is Harry Hardwick. As we know, Harry Hardwick fought last weekend, and it was his second fight in the UFC, and of course I was rooting for him. And he was looking pretty decent right up until he broke his jaw and he couldn't continue. He couldn't continue. He had to back out in round 2, which is unfortunate. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But because he put up such a good fight, Harry Hardwick said via Instagram that Hunter Campbell and Sean Shelby will give him another fight in the promotion, as they should. And I hope to fuck he bounces back. As I said, when did I say it? Oh, yeah, I guess with his last fight. The only other thing I need to mention is Dustin Poirier was just on the Joe Rogan Experience, which, generally speaking, when a fighter is usually on JRE, that usually means they've got something coming up. Now, I'm not saying Dustin Poirier is going to have a fight coming up, but who knows? Maybe he'll have something in boxing. I haven't actually listened to the episode, and as far as I know, nothing has been announced yet. But maybe he was just on there for the sake of being on the show. But anyway, that's it for this episode of the Dynamite Gizmo podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new about your life, and remember to make the choice, either macaroni salad or potato salad. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. Goodbye, everyone.